Minister, in January of this year, the CEO of Irish Water confirmed on RTE that in excess of 180 million was spent on the set-up of Irish Water. Many Cabinet members, as you know, let alone members of the Oireachtas, let alone members of the public, were aware of the extent of those costs. The Oireachtas was subsequently drip-fed information about the contents of that 180 million, including, for example, the 85 million spent on consultancy fees. Irish Water was set up in a cloud of secrecy under Bord Gáis, despite warnings against that avenue from opposition sources and PwC, whom in 2011 confirmed it would be a more expensive route than the other. What we now have is a massive duplication of tiers of upper and middle management being recruited, while local authorities will continue to maintain and repair waterworks for the next 12 years at least. The government defended the setting up of this white elephant, this bonus-driven quango, by stating it would save the state €2 billion by 2021. The savings that will be made are actually water charges. And we were told in the aftermath of January's debacle by the Taoiseach, amongst others, that what Paddy needs to know, Paddy will know about, and he would know at the earliest opportunity, the government's position and the government's stall well in advance of the local elections in May, let alone well in advance of the first bills in October. And Minister, can I ask you now, are you satisfied that Irish Water is under the full rigour, for example, of the FOI Act? Are you satisfied Irish Water and indeed Minister Hogan's department are acting in an open and transparent manner? And are you satisfied that the public knows where the government stands, in relation to the free allowance?
Thank you.
Knows where the government stands in relation to public subsidy, knows where the government stands in relation to low-income subsidy and first fix pricing policy, for example. Just those issues. Are you happy that since last January, since that debacle and all that ensued thereafter, that based on the commitments that were made by members of your government, including the Taoiseach, that this process would become much more open, much more transparent, and the public who will be asked to pay for a system that might not yet be fit for practice or mightn't be fit for practice in the near future, but that they would at least know what they were facing well in advance, as I said, not only of the May elections, but most importantly, or more importantly, well in advance of the October bill when they arrive through the doors in January.
Minister, I don't accept the Deputy's contention that the biggest new public utility, new public company of a generation, Irish Water, is a white elephant. I don't accept that. In fact, the status quo is the difficulty, not the future. In the status quo, we have a fragmented, underinvested delivery system for the most important of public resources, that is, water to people. We have 34 local authorities using 1.2 billion of taxpayers' money to provide an unsuccessful, inadequate system. There are 18,000 people in public water supplies with a boil notice or some sort of a restriction in place right now. The EPA reports that remedial action is required on 16% of supplies. So 16% of supplies are at risk with schemes such as the Dublin water supply and Cork supply. There are constraints on the capacity for the people of Dublin, a third of the population, as we experienced last year. Unaccountable water loss is over 40% of capacity. 40% of our water leaks. And 36% of water treatment plants weren't up to EPA standards and will probably, if we didn't take remedial action, face legal action in the European courts. So that is the bad system that we have in place. And this government determined that we're going to find the wherewithal to invest to improve that. And that's the genesis of Irish Water, which has a series of benefits for us. Now, you asked a number of specific questions after that. Am I satisfied that Irish Water is currently within the ambit of the FOI system? Yes, because I signed the order myself, and that became operable during the course of last month. So it is completely open to FOI. Will there be issues in terms of the migration of 34 local authorities and their staff to a new single consolidated entity? Of course there'll be issues. But if we had taken a different course of action, there would be the very difficulties you'd be arguing about not giving fair deals to each local authority and their workers. That would be the issue you have here, instead of having a proper system to migrate local authority workers into an integrated entity. Right now, we are obviously working on the next phase. It will be a matter for the regulator to determine the pricing structure. That will be done in good time, as the Taoiseach has promised, to allow people to make the budgetary adjustments that will be necessitated when water charging commences at the end of this year and the actual bills arrive next year.
Deputy Cowen, 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Count Corder. Thank you, Minister, for your initial response, at least. You say that will all be done in good time. Can I remind you, Minister, the process that your government initiated, the consultation process that was to be led by the CER, it has begun. And it has begun a number of weeks, and the government, or Irish Water, have yet to make a submission. And there's no sign of that. There's been no consultation, even at committee level. How can you expect the full engagement from ourselves and from the public and from people who wish to engage in this process if we don't know, or we have no idea, despite, as I said, the commitments that was made in this House by your Taoiseach, our Taoiseach and government members, that this process would be open and transparent and consultative and all-encompassing? There's nothing too all-encompassing about the fact that your government, has yet to discuss this at cabinet level, let alone make a submission to the CER and allow him on with the business, as you directed him, to set the pricing process in motion. The public that you and I and others are meeting on a daily basis in the course of the existing campaign are left in the dark. The secrecy continues, and no effort has been made by you or anybody representing you or your minister. The silence of the minister and his department on this issue is deafening, and it's high time that you began to do as you say. It's time to match the rhetoric with some action in this area. The public, as the derogatory term that Minister behind you referred to, that being of Paddy, being the general public, I accept that is a derogatory term, it shouldn't be used, but it was used by this Taoiseach. And the public need to know, they don't know, they're not being told, the secrecy continues, nothing has changed, it's high time it did.
Minister.
The Deputy is creating the notion of conspiracy. I don't know what the other Deputy is mumbling about, Ceann Comhairle. I'm saying that the conspiracy that the Deputy opposite is referring to, he likes conspiracy and problems. In truth, we're dealing with enough real problems, rather than imaginary problems, to be presented to us. We've real issues to deal with in this country. God knows the legacy of your party's term in government. And I'm saying now that one of the big issues we need to do as a people is to have proper infrastructure in this country. And nothing is more important for our people's health and well-being and for those who might invest in our state to have a decent water system. And I don't for a second believe that you over there believe that the current system provided by 34 local authorities, where a third of the wastewater plants are suspect and where 18,000 people are subject to boil water notices, is adequate. Is that your position? After the boom times, when we were awash with money, apparently, as said by one of the members of the former cabinet, we still have that dreadful infrastructural deficit. We're going to deal with that.
Thank you.
And we've said we would. Just to deal with the specific points you raise, my understanding is that the process begun by the regulator started this month, April. It's a two-phase process. There will be inputs from government, but we have to await a determination from our soundings with Eurostat in terms of what amount of money will ensure that this state company remains off balance sheet. And the Deputy knows that full well.
Thank you.